Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Inga Hansen. I am the editor of Medtech Intelligence. Welcome to Optimizing CER and PMS Document Writing with Technology and AI. This event is sponsored by Intelligence. We have a few housekeeping items before we begin. You're listening in to today's go-to web-based broadcast system using your computer speaker system by default, so there is no call-in number. If you're having problems with your audio, please try to increase your computer's volume. If you continue to have problems, you can log out and reconnect. If that doesn't fix it, please contact Veronica Allen via the chat box in the control panel to let her know that you're having sound issues. Today's event will consist of a 45-minute presentation by our speakers, followed by Q&A. You can submit text questions to today's presenters by typing them into the questions pane on your control panel. You can send them in at any time during the presentation, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end of the program. There are no handouts for today's webinar, and I'm excited to introduce the moderator of today's program. Shruti Sharma is the Product Specialist, Regulatory Services at Intelligence. She is a specialist for CAPTIS with a background in medical writing. With more than 7 years of experience in medical device regulatory affairs, Shruti excels in clinical evaluations for medical devices across diverse therapeutic areas. Her proficiency extends to crafting essential regulatory documents, including CEPs, CERs, PMSRs, SSCP, along with MDR-compliant comprehensive CEP and CER templates for medical device manufacturers. She brings a unique blend of experience to the role of moderator for today's event, connecting medical writing and technology, and we are looking forward to the discussion. Welcome, Shruti.
Thank you, Inga. Right, are we good to get started? I hope my screen is up. All right. Give me a quick minute. Okay. Right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on optimizing CER and PMS document writing with technology and AI. A quick note about Intelligence: we were established in 2017 and we're headquartered in Chicago with offices around the globe. Intelligence uniquely combines operational, strategic, and scientific expertise with exclusive technology to help pharmaceutical, medical device, and IVD manufacturers achieve regulatory compliance in time and cost-efficient ways. About me, I am your host today, and Inga has already introduced me, but I'll give you a short intro anyways. I bring 7 years of experience in the life sciences industry, specializing in regulatory compliance. And throughout my career, I've gained expertise in drafting various regulatory reports, such as CERs, and conducting lots of systematic literature reviews. Additionally, I actively contribute to Intelligence's technology division, where I provide guidance in the development of our EU MDR compliance software, CAPTIS. And on the panel today, we have Dr. Pratibha Mishra. Dr. Pratibha is a manager and senior subject matter expert in the medical devices team here at Intelligence. Wonderful having you here today, Dr. Pratibha. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself to our audience? Oh, Dr. Pratibha, yes. Do we have a slight connection issue?
Can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Shruti. Hello, everybody. My background is in dentistry with specialization in oral medicine and maxillofacial radiology. I was in research in academia for a few years before I found my way into the regulatory world, and I have worked on clinical evaluation of several medical devices across various therapeutic areas, including medical device software and combination products. Here at Intelligence, I work with my wonderful team of medical writers and regulatory analysts on various regulatory documents, including clinical evaluation reports. As an SME, I work with various medical device manufacturers to define their regulatory strategy for clinical evaluation and post-market surveillance, among other things. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Pratibha. Lovely having you here too. Next up, we also have Parvati Nambiar. Parvati leads a team of medical writers here at Intelligence. Thank you for joining us today, Parvati. Again, quickly introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Thank you, Shruti. So hi, everybody. I'm Parvati. and I have a master's in microbiology and over 6 years of experience in medical writing for pharma and medical device regulatory affairs. I've authored and reviewed multiple PMS documentation, clinical investigation plan, and clinical study reports. So here at Cerigence, I lead a team of talented medical writers who work on PMS documentation for a variety of therapeutic areas such as dentistry, radiosurgery, diagnostic imaging, IVF, and female health. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Great. Let's quickly look at our webinar learning objectives. Again, we have 3 main objectives. One, we look at what kind of notified body observations have we been noticing so far, and then how can you enhance your efficiency when documenting your regulatory reports. And then thirdly, how to look at technology as a helpful assistant in your entire process and also as a strategic investment in your entire regulatory journey. So as you know, Cerigence provides regulatory services and solutions. And over the years, we've worked with several medical device manufacturers, supporting them with their regulatory compliance activities and their interactions with notified bodies. Parvati, could you quickly shed some light on what we see on the slide right now?
Sure, Shruti. So our team here at Cerigence, we've worked on hundreds of clinical evaluation reports and documentation. And based on our experience with notified body reviews, we've collated all the feedback that we have repeatedly observed, and we've categorized them into 4 main broad categories, which are as presented on the slide. So the first category would be related to data insufficiency. So this is a very common problem with CERs, especially for legacy devices. The data presented in the document is insufficient and pointed out by the notified body, especially to support benefit risk profile of the device. For example, they may comment that the safety and performance endpoints or the acceptance criteria are not defined, or that the clinical claims made do not support clinical data and do not have any evidence. So the second broad classification or category would be data inconsistency, wherein these issues are also very common across the technical file for a product. For example, something as simple and basic as the intended use verbiage. You would think that this is pretty straightforward and is going to be the same across all of the documents, irrespective of which document it is presented in, especially given how this determines the entire clinical evaluation process, the evidence that needs to be gathered, analyzed, and presented. But unfortunately, even the intended use has been pointed out by the notified body as being inconsistent across the drafts during their review. And the third category would be gaps in process. So we know that there are guidance documents that clearly outline various aspects of clinical evaluation, which are not followed in several cases. So for example, the MedDev Rev 4 guidance and the IMDRF clinical evaluation guideline clearly provides information on the literature review process that needs to be performed. And we have, in fact, seen comments from the notified body directly pointing out to specific paragraphs or tables within these guidance document as something that has not been followed in the CEP or the CER. And the fourth category would be on poor documentation. So this would be the easiest to avoid and is generally around very simple but important aspects like the literature review protocol or output, or output not being documented, or separate protocols for SOTA and the device under evaluation for literature not being maintained, and etc. So these would be the examples.
Got it. Audience members, we have a quick poll for you. Let us know what kind of observations are you seeing in your submissions. Veronica, could you kindly please pull up the poll?
Yep, I can see it on the screen now.
All right.
So the question we have up here is, which of these notified body observation types have you experienced? And the options are the 4 that Parvati just gave examples for: data insufficiency, data inconsistency, gaps in process, gaps in documentation, or if there's something else that you have come across, you can click on other. It'll be interesting to see if the audience also agrees with us in terms of what they have been seeing in reviews from the notified body. There could, of course, be all kinds of observations. These are just generic buckets here. It depends on the type of the device. It depends on in some cases, even the the reviewer or the notified body. So let's see what the audience has to say about this. We have the results up now. Shruti, can you see the results, or can I go ahead and read it out?
Yeah, go ahead. I cannot see them. Yeah.
Okay. So the question was, which of these notified body observation types have you experienced? 47% of our audience says data insufficiency. 31% say gaps in documentation. 28% say data inconsistency. And 20% say gaps in process. And about 15% have marked the other option. So if you think about it, approximately half of these observations have been around insufficiency, and the rest of the three or others collectively make up for the other half.
That's interesting. I think another interesting question that we can pose to the audience is, could any of these observations have been prevented? As a manufacturer, how much control do you have in minimizing these gaps identified by the notified body? And I want you all to focus on the word minimize, and we'll talk about that in a bit. All right, back to our 4 different types of observations. We have insufficiency, inconsistency, gaps in process, and poor documentation practices. Pratibha, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the poll results actually speak to it. It's pretty much a good segue into this slide, but there are definitely bigger challenges around data insufficiency, especially, and this is very common, especially for legacy device clinical evaluations, or if you have a device that has been around for a while and it's not really a focus of research, or it's a device that is ancillary to a procedure, so it's crucial in the procedure, but it's not the main device being used. For such devices, it is definitely difficult to find data through the routine methods that we have, such as literature, and that could be more challenging to deal with. But then we have these other category of observations: inconsistent data, process gaps, documentation not done properly, which according to our poll was about half of the observations that we see. And those, I think, are much easier to avoid in the first place. And if you do get those observations or non-conformances in the audit, they are much easier to address, definitely.
Correct. And I think this is why I wanted everyone to focus on the word minimize, because when your review is already in progress, you've received the first round of say observations from the notified body. The time that you have available to address them and then submit the next version is sometimes very limited. It sometimes can be weeks, maybe if you're lucky, a month. And we all know that notified bodies are also extremely busy, and it's always preferable to complete the entire process in the same submission cycle, so that your plans and your timeline for your product is on track. And there's a lot that you can do, like Pratibha mentioned, to minimize these types of observations, and hence lesser work to do when you're creating that second version of that CER to submit back to the notified body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at Celligence, we brainstormed with our medical writing teams and managers. We listed down all the places that were posing a challenge for our teams, and taking too much time away from our team's time from focusing on content. And we wanted an efficient way of handling our process, and also adapt it as we learned more from our interactions with notified bodies. And that is why we built Captis. Now, Captis is our EU MDR compliance platform. It essentially is a workspace. So all the processes that one needs to do, right from your data gathering to the final drafting of the report, including the review, all of that can happen on the platform itself. It's been smartly broken down into chunks where you can segregate your processes and really focus on one activity at a time. And all of these modules also very smartly interact with each other. This way you have the same consistent data presented everywhere. Now, let's talk about practical ways to address these observations. First up, we have collaboration. Now, as you know, in the realm of regulatory documentation, harmony isn't just a concept, it's a necessity. And collaboration is the key, not only between your teams, but also between your documents.
Absolutely. Not that this was not a necessity before, but especially with the advent of MDR, it is now quite impossible to work in silos. It's been evident for a while now that if you are a medical device manufacturer, there are so many different teams that are involved in the entire medical device life cycle. And it is essential that your R&D team and the risk team and the post-market surveillance team, clinical affairs, regulatory affairs, marketing, everyone has some contribution to make in the creation and maintenance of these documents. And there should be an avenue for all these stakeholders to interact with each other, to collaborate together, and essentially just be able to exchange ideas and information with ease and with proper documentation. And a technology tool that can offer that common workspace can really facilitate this collaboration. This type of synergy is also expected not just between departments, but also between documents. So, there are different outputs that come out of different processes that you have in your organization. And a lot of information is either common across all of these documents, or they feed into each other. And it is essential from the notified body's perspective that all these documents should speak the same language. They should, the entire technical file of a device should narrate the same story. A good example would be, something as simple as the patient population for your device. We have noticed that there have been observations around patient population mentioned in one document, but not in another, or the verbiage used is slightly different, which can be confusing for the reviewer. It may not be very clear what exactly is the target population that your device is for. Or at times you have a post-market surveillance plan, but it does not refer to a PMCF activity that you already have planned or you already have ongoing, but there's no reference to it, or the requisite details are not included. We routinely see such comments that that say that the findings of your CER are not aligned with your risk documents are not aligned with the findings from your CER, or your PMS plan does not have this information fed into it. So to minimize these kind of observations, what helps is to have a single source of truth that can be followed across all documentation. Important key sections, if they can be linked across the same document or across different documents, it becomes very helpful in making sure that there is a central repository of knowledge that is accessible to all stakeholders, and it allows version control of documents, and basically just ensures that everyone who's involved works with the latest information and is aware of updates that are being made in the day-to-day functioning of the organization.
Right. So you essentially need one single place where your entire team is, and all of your project related discussions should happen on one single place. Do not have them
Right.
spread across all these multiple emails so that it's hard to track later. And then also maintain a single source of truth so that all of your documents also speak the same language. This one's for Parvati. Parvati, your teams use Captus for all of your projects. What specific features does Captus have that help your team, frequently collaborate between your team and also your documents and also with your clients?
So yeah, Shruti, just like Dr. Pratibha referred to the benefits of a common workspace, and we have seen that those practical benefits that we've seen when we use Captus. So Captus has helped us with collaboration. All project-related discussions or decisions can be easily tracked on Captus, and instead of digging through multiple emails like you just mentioned for something important, which is pretty tedious. And reviews can be done in real time, and there is a data dictionary feature which allows us to save time and use the same content across multiple documents that we are going to be submitting. And there's also the content linking feature, which helps maintain traceability, and this makes the job easier for both writers as well as reviewers.
I just thought of a very recent example that I can give that is very pertinent to the discussion we are having here related to traceability and consistency of information. We were working with a manufacturer that has an ongoing post-market clinical follow-up activity, and they've started it a year or two ago, and somewhere down the line it was decided that the frequency of this activity will now be biannual instead of annual. But this was not reflected across, all the documents. So we have the notified body reviewer looking at a recent PMCF plan that says it's a biannual activity, but they have a clinical evaluation report that, calls it an annual activity. So it's using where data is coming from, and essentially we need to have correctness and consistency of information to ensure that we have the right safety and performance information for the device.
Absolutely. Speaking of authoring documents, let's talk about writing a CER. Sometimes writing a CER can feel like, a thrilling detective story. Yet not all the tasks that you do are thrilling. Some are mechanical. They involve data compilation, presentation, verification, formatting. And, these tasks, though necessary, can sometimes be time consuming and prone to errors. And sometimes this manual work of compiling also takes away a lot of time that could have been, better spent on critical analysis and interpretation of data.
Yeah, I mean, using your example of a detective story, it's very entertaining being a detective. I like that part of it. But when you run a detective agency, you also have to have somebody, filling your gas, or taking care of the bills, or the routine maintenance activity, which is kind of tedious, is the right word that Parvati used. So and another thing that comes to mind is that usually for different manufacturers, or even if you are a service provider, your team consists of your teams consist of very highly qualified individuals. You will have doctors, other healthcare professionals, researchers, subject matter experts of different qualifications, and you think that their time is better spent on scientific activities rather than manual processes, and they could be investing their time in determining the adequacy of clinical evidence, determining different clinical evidence pathways, and analysis of risk, where the requirements for PMCF, or strategizing for PMCF, instead of the other routine tasks, such as making sure the search output is correctly documented, or the Prisma diagrams are in place, or you have all the articles that have been used as a reference, which could be considered as very essential to the process, because don't get me wrong, there can definitely be observations around that if you miss that part, but it would, I would say, is a drain on the time of these highly qualified resources.
Correct. I mean, observations on these specifically, really make you think, how could we miss this out? You already have all that data, and you missed out on presenting it in the correct way. And so this is just one of those things that could have been easily, rectified or minimized. This is it's a great example of one of those observations which could have been minimized.
Yeah.
And this is exactly where I think Captis comes in. So Captis was built to automate much of these manual tasks. I love working on Captis. It takes away so much from my plate when I'm generating that actual draft of the CER. All that manual work is taken care of. So that really saves up a lot of my time.
I absolutely agree, Shruti. So automation is the key to address this issue. So for example, Captis has really streamlined the literature search and review process that we perform for CERs and other regulatory documents here at Intelligence. And we no longer have to keep track of multiple Excel sheets. And there is traceability also for all the articles that we get from the source. And we are all aware that there may be scenarios wherein any of these data might get modified, and this presents an immense challenge to maintain consistency, as there is a higher risk of errors occurring. And basically, Captis just makes the overall documentation process a breeze. For instance, the added content can be traced back to the source, abbreviations are automatically captured, and it also compiles the entire literature referenced in the document. And personally, what I'm very excited about is the Captis Copilot, which is the AI-assisted data extraction tool. This helps extract necessary data from literature, which can then be reviewed and edited as required. So reviewers can also use it to refine the scientific verbiage that has been used in the document. And I think another way to use it would also be for finding information on the alternate treatment options or on guidelines related to subject device or technology. It's a very nifty feature and can be pretty helpful.
I share your excitement, Parvati. Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, speaking about AI in regulatory documentation, now there is a significant hype in the market around AI and its applications in medical writing. Here at Celligence, we conducted extensive research on the application of AI, and in our analysis, we identified 4 distinct areas where we think AI has a lot of potential. One is decision-making support for your title and abstract screening when you're reviewing your literature. AI can help you extract data from your literature. You can ask it questions and it can automatically pull those answers for you from that paper. It can help you summarize content that you give it, and it can also help you generate text. Now here also, again, we only intend to really apply AI for real time saving benefits for our users, because these documents are so critical. The evidence going there and the outcome from these documents are so critical. You always need a human in the loop to ensure accuracy and improve the AI system continuously. Human reviewers play a very essential role in ensuring that the final report meets your desired standards. And I think I'm going to ask Pratibha this one. This is something that a lot of our clients also come to us and ask us. They have concerns regarding, will AI replace a medical writer? Dr. Pratibha, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, it's the million-dollar question for us, isn't it? But not just for us. It's, I think, for everybody in the world and for every domain. This is being discussed everywhere you go right now. Well, my opinion is that what we do requires a level of critical thinking and domain expertise and an understanding of the regulatory landscape that is currently challenging for AI to fully replicate in a trustworthy manner. In future, who knows? Stranger things have happened in the field of technology, right? So, but in all seriousness, while while AI may not have been at this stage right now, it can certainly assist in all the preliminary steps that lead up to the decision-making stage. So, speaking specifically of clinical evaluation, for example, identifying the sources of potentially relevant data, which you can then investigate further, or gathering and extracting the relevant data, summarizing the information succinctly, basically supporting the workflow in a way that leaves you time to deal with the actual analytical and decision-making part, I think, is what role AI can certainly play in our process.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also, as technology evolves, the role of the medical writer may also evolve, with AI increasingly assisting you in your routine tasks, allowing human writers to focus on higher level analysis and strategic communication rather than, your routine manual tasks that take up a lot of your time.
Right.
Okay. Next up is all about process. So efficiency is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things, and having a robust process ensures that you achieve both. Dr. Pratibha, what's your recommendation? How can teams craft a perfect process that can truly shine and ensure year-on-year compliance?
Well, the first step would be to identify the gaps. Take a look, take a deep look, and remember that if you don't do it, the notified body will do it for you, and they will find the gaps. So from personal experience, retrospectively addressing it is always harder and requires more time and more effort. And it's just frustrating, if I may say so. So it is best to be a step ahead in the game and do that activity yourself. I understand that all organizations have, they follow a quality management system, or at least they're expected to, for compliance with regulatory requirements. So they may have, the finest SOPs defined, the work instructions will be in place. There will be an entire process, but if the entire burden of executing this process involves humans, there is always a possibility of error. And like we have discussed, several steps in this process are, just too mechanical for the human brain, and they can lead to leakage in efficiency and also increase in the probability of errors. So using technology or appropriate software tools to automate the process where it can be automated, that can in a way lock in some steps of the process. So this will take away the burden on individuals for these parts of the process at least, and then they can focus on the content of these documents and on things that are more crucial for the end game, like which is analyzing the evidence that supports the benefit risk profile of your devices. But also, I do want to point out that implementing a new process always has challenges, and I understand there is a learning curve to adapt to. And there's in fact interesting research that shows that humans develop an emotional connection to something that they are familiar with. It can be a routine, mundane activity, but if it's something they are familiar with, it's neurologically hard to let it go. So there is always a difficulty in incorporating a new tool in your process, and believe me, I understand that. But we must remember that, especially with the EU MDR, these regulatory documents that we are working on, it's not a one-time activity. There are specific requirements for periodic updates, and sometimes there can be specific triggers that need you to update these documents even between this periodic update, frequency that has been determined. So I just want to say that the regulatory environment is becoming way more dynamic than what we were used to, even just 3 or 4 years ago. So if you are a manufacturer with multiple products in your portfolio, and if you have to maintain compliance for each product, it is challenging, to say the least. And that is why having a robust and scalable process that can be technology supported, it is becoming a necessity, and it has to be brought in to establish such a process.
I can definitely identify with that, Dr. Pratibha. So Captis, initially, it was very challenging to adapt to Captis. And although the process is the same, but the interface is different. So moving from Excel to a unified workspace took some adjusting to. Similar to how an Android user would initially take time adapting to an iOS environment. But once we dealt with that necessary challenge, the output we have now is so much more desirable. Right from the start, so Captis has been very helpful in fixing the process for us. So what I mean by that is I can set templates and make really customizable workflows to match my client's processes, which would help with smoother collaboration. And we have dashboards to track the team's progress with respect to drafting the articles or drafting the documents and reviewing the articles or the documents as well. And because traceability is so big all over the platform, this really helps us in preparing the next version of the CR or any of the documents with features that help perform maintenance activities. And this helps reduce errors and maintains consistency across the drafts as well.
Right. So, I mean, essentially, so crafting a perfect process is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, right? You need the right pieces, you need the right people, guidance, and technology, and there you have a comprehensive solution. So, technology truly is an investment in your organization's regulatory process. So thinking of long-term benefits, it is the right move to make. And what I mean is by incorporating technology in your workflows, you automatically achieve an efficiency boost. You achieve higher team productivity. Your team's not spending time on these manual tasks, just gathering data, compiling them, saving them. Because once you automate it, your team can then focus on content that truly matters, analysis of that content and producing that higher quality draft. And this will also help you with year-on-year maintenance. And in the long run, prioritizing convenience, efficiency, and improved output quality will ultimately contribute to cost savings by saving your company valuable time and resources.
Yeah, I think getting it right the first time, that not only minimizes the potential for non-conformances, but it also reduces the extra effort that that your team has to invest in in addressing the issues that come up later, which in turn can have cascading effects. Maybe, for example, if you have a new product to launch, if there's repeated roadblocks in the regulatory process, that will delay your product launch timeline. So in this context, I would say time does truly translate to money, and the more efficiently your teams operate, the more cost effective it becomes to secure approvals for your products in different regulatory markets and to keep them in the market, basically.
Yes, I agree. I guess to conclude our talk today, the future of regulatory writing is here. It's a brilliant combination of people, process, and technology. So for our audience, don't wait for the future. Bring that future into your regulatory workflows today. And before we jump to the Q&A, to all our viewers, again, I would love for all of you to experience firsthand, what CAPTIS can do, how it can help solve some of the problems that your team has. A quick recap on the modules that we have. We have the literature review module where you can search and also analyze your data. CAPTIS also gives you quite a few automatic reports. Again, your literature tables, your general appraisal tables that you typically present in your CERs, you need not make them manually. The platform will do that for you automatically. We also have the adverse events module, which is directly integrated with US FDA mod and TPLC. Again, you need not go to these websites. You can do them all from the same workspace. We also have the source documents module, which works like a repository for all of your documents that you would need when referencing, when making that final CER or any other regulatory document. And then finally, the report writing module. This is where you can do your entire draft along with a very sophisticated review cycle. And also, if you're curious about real-world success stories with CAPTIS, you can join us on October 24th for a webinar featuring Microport, a global medical device company. Come join us and see how Microport used CAPTIS to streamline their literature review process and achieve significant process efficiencies. And again, we see quite a few questions coming up. In case we aren't able to answer all of them, if you have more questions for our panelists, or you're curious about the services that Celligence provides in the medical device, IVD, and pharma regulatory space, or if you're curious about CAPTIS and our other technology offerings, feel free to reach us out at celligence.com, or we have all our email IDs listed on the slide below. You can simply send us an email also. Plus, we also have a limited time promotional offer running right now. So if you sign up as a client with Celligence by October 15th, you will receive a complimentary SME consultation on your CP and CER templates. All right, let's jump to the Q&A.
We do have some interesting questions coming in from the audience. I think, I can read it out, and Shruti or Bharati, if you want to answer it, or if I can answer it, I'll just go ahead and answer it.
Yeah.
One of the questions I saw is Copilot a generative AI tool like ChatGPT? It's an interesting one.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? Oh, is Copilot
Is CAPTIS Copilot a generative AI tool like ChatGPT? Shruti, I think you should be able to answer that.
The answer is yes. Actually, so our AI integration is with ChatGPT. So the answer is yes for that question.
Another question is, can I access mod directly from CAPTIS, or should I access their interface?
I can take that one too. You can access mod directly from CAPTIS. You need not go to the website. And actually, doing them from CAPTIS has quite a few benefits over doing them on mod. You immediately get to see a list of all brand names together for that device code that you're interested in. As you know, if you're familiar with searching on mod, you'll notice that quite a few times there are spelling variations in the way the same device has been presented. There could be a missing space somewhere, an extra hyphen somewhere, and there is a risk of you missing out on that relevant report just because you could not think of that different variation for that name. On CAPTIS, all of your brand names get listed one after the other this way. Even if there are variations, you can see all of them together. You won't miss out on any relevant report.
Right. Okay, so the next question is, can captives be integrated into an existing EQMS system? We use Arena solutions for EQMS and all documentation. Well, I can answer that. Yes, we can assess your existing systems and we can build customized integrations. There will, of course, if you're interested, you can, like Shruti said, contact us directly for a demo, or reach out to anybody whose names you see on the you saw in the slide. Maybe Shruti, you can go to that slide probably for the for some time, so people can note down the contact details. And yeah, so we can customize the integration in a way that we can push and pull data and documentation from other systems. So so yeah, short answer is yes, that can definitely be built in, depending upon what kind of subscriptions you have with the portal. Okay, moving on. This one is interesting. Can academia industry collaboration be a possible solution for data insufficiency? I can answer that. Yes, I think in general, academia industry collaboration is a good idea for anything. But in this case, in case of medical device data generation, sure, definitely we have. In my experience, I have seen manufacturers have agreements with universities or organizations that can support them in basically in-house testing, or even running volunteer-based study programs and collect data that can sort of address this. But of course, it depends on the type of device that you have and what kind of methodology is planned for this. Question once again for Shruti. Can you talk about success stories from the use of captives? I think you already answered that. But we've conducted webinars in the past as well with some of our captives customers. And like Shruti mentioned, there's one planned for the month of October, where you can look into it. If you sign up with us for a demo, we can definitely go through case studies that will that give you more insight on how manufacturers have actually utilized this platform.
In my opinion, I think the best way for anyone to assess captives is to actually use it. Once you experience what automation feels like, you not having to do all of this extra task, you'll realize how much time are you actually saving. If I go back and ask all of our Intelligence writers, like, okay, we're gonna shut down captives today, everyone's gonna be so mad. So
Yes,
nobody wants to go
definitely.
back to Excel sheets anymore, right? Like Parvati said.
Yeah,
So
no
yeah,
way.
so feel
Do
free
you
to
know
just like
something
send us
that
an
we
email.
don't?
What do you
Do you
mean?
know something we don't?
No, we don't. No. I mean, yeah, so just send us an email, book a demo today, do a trial with us. We can help you replicate maybe an existing project of yours, see what it feels like to do a literature review, a full process, right to your actual CR drafting on captives. Once you see the kind of benefits that you get, smart features, things that you don't really get when you're doing things manually, you'll truly then realize what technology is doing in the regulatory space today.
Right. Another question, is there any validation of the AI capabilities? Is there a risk that results generated may not? Okay, I think the question is around if there is a risk from, depending on the data that has been extracted by the AI, and if it's fully vetted before being incorporated into reporting.
Again, I mean, I think it all comes back to involvement of a human person, the whole human in the loop concept. And the idea is AI is going to give you that initial draft of information for you to start with. But again, because these documents are so critical, medical writers are always expected to really read all the information and analyze, and see what kind of information are you getting. So use AI as a helpful assistant only. Do not expect it to draft that CER for you. Use it as a first draft of the information and then plug in all the details that perhaps it may be missed and something else that you would want added in the content.
Yeah, and also use it for finessing your language and looking for extra data as was presented in the slides. So yeah,
Yeah.
don't rely on AI completely.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do see. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Shruti.
I was just going to read out the next question, but go ahead. Was there something else you wanted to add?
No, I just wanted to point out to what we already said in the webinar, which is all your steps that lead up to the decision making. So the decision making aspect is still very much controlled by by the same process as it would be outside of the software. But a good example would be if you want to look for relevant sources of information. So what websites should I check? What guidelines should I look into? So that kind of information is quite easy to obtain with a search query. And like I said, it's I think we are still waiting to get into a situation where AI can basically do all the work and be trusted enough. I don't think we are there yet.
And yeah, that's true. I see one question on Captis. Are Captis's source codes available for users? In other words, can we see the backlog of the searches, appraisals, or literature reviews? The source codes, no, it's proprietary technology, but you have a full audit log of all the activity that happens on the project. So any searches that you conduct, when did you conduct them, on which database, what keywords did you use, all of that is essentially recorded. So yes, the platform can be audited if needed for your process.
Another question is, do medical device companies use it both for MDR and FDA? Sure, if you want to draft a benefit risk analysis for FDA, you would require literature searches and you would require to draft a report, which you can utilize this, tool for.
Yeah, I mean, Captis, think of it as purely technology for a regulatory, for the regulatory space. It's even though it has some features which are specific for processes for the MDR, but the general list of, capabilities that it offers you when you're doing your process, you can use the same for any other submission also. All of your general submissions require a literature review, a full list of articles, a full review criteria, all of that can happen. Even the report writing module, this is generic. You can draft any kind of document on Captis. You can use the, content linking capabilities from the draft that you're making back to the source that you took it from. All of that is still generic. You can use it for, again, any kind of document.
I think we have time for one more question. Maybe Parvati, you could answer this, or I could step in if I have anything additional. How can I don't think I've been in any webinar where this question has not come up actually. How can the state of the art be established sufficiently for CERs? There is a strong root in risk management activities to identify the state of the art, but what are some methods that can be used to establish SOTA?
I think the first process would be to make a robust literature search plan for state of the art with the right keywords established, and to look for clinical background or data on clinical background, and also to look for data on the alternate treatment options available based on your subject device, and also come up with look for articles on your similar devices that have been established. And based on that, you can also look up or come up with acceptance criteria and endpoints that can be generated, and same data that you can look up for your DUE or device under evaluation. And also guidelines play an important role in looking up for the relevant acceptance criteria and coming up with the correct endpoints, which in the end, you come up with the state of the art justification itself. Dr. Pratibha, if you have extra points.
Yes, I have extra points about this question, but I'm going to
yes, always.
But I think, if you start for any aspect, the starting point should be a good understanding of the intended use and indications. And guidelines are a good place to start for, depending on the type of the device, for defining your acceptance criteria from state of the art. For some devices, it's pretty straightforward. Like for a radiology device, there are international standards and guidelines that your device has to comply to. The other source, like Parvati said, is clinical data from similar devices, preferably CE mark devices. You can also look at, similar technologies, or even alternative therapies that are available for the same indications, and what kind of performance and safety outcomes they are having in real world, which can come from literature. In some cases, in case of devices where you don't have necessary data from literature, you can also look into PMS and look for historically what kind of PMS, or basically PMS links to the risk documentation. So what kind of issues or complaints that you've been, or adverse events that have been reported, and what is the the reportable event rate, for example, for similar devices on the vigilance databases, and that can help you define acceptance criteria for safety. I think that's all the time we have, and there are a couple of unanswered questions, so I apologize we couldn't take that today, but you can always write into us, or we will get in touch with you to answer your questions.
Great. Well, we want to, on behalf of Medtech Intelligence, we want to thank you all so much for being here, for the great presentation. So many questions about AI, such a need to help people manage all the global regulatory requirements happening now. So it's great work you're doing, and we appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions.
Thank you, Inga.
Thank you.
Welcome. And we want to thank all the attendees for taking the time to be here with us today. As we mentioned, we will follow up and make sure you get answers to any questions we weren't able to hit on today. And do want to remind you to visit medtechintelligence.com to look at some of our upcoming webinars and in-person events. And we hope to see you all again soon, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Have a great day.